I took care of my ex-mother-in-law and inherited everything from her. Now, my ex is trying to stop me. I never expected this. In fact, I don't think anyone would have. It's hard to believe now, sitting in a house that's been mine for months, that it all started so simply. Helping an aging woman who was once my mother-in-law. No strings attached, no hidden agenda. Just me, doing what I thought was the right thing to do. After the divorce, I figured I wouldn't see much of her again. She had always been that looming presence in my life, the woman who would comment on everything I did, not shy away from telling me how to live. Our relationship was never easy. In fact, it was full of tension and disagreements. But we were family, in a weird way. And when things fell apart with my ex, I knew she'd probably be the one person left in my life who was unaffected by the breakup. I didn't exactly like her, but I respected her. And after everything, I figured I could help. That was all. When she asked for help after her hip surgery, I didn't hesitate. She was the only one in the family who actually seemed to need me. My ex, my in-laws, they were all too busy with their lives to care. I didn't expect anything in return. I wasn't looking for recognition. I wasn't after her money. I just wanted to do what was right. At first, it was nothing out of the ordinary. Driving her to doctor appointments, picking up groceries, staying with her when she wasn't feeling well. A lot of people would say that's just basic decency, and I would agree. I didn't think I'd become close to her. In fact, I thought it was just a temporary thing. I thought it'd pass. But as days turned into weeks and weeks turned into months, something shifted. She was still the same woman I'd known, sharp-tongued and critical, but it wasn't as grating anymore. I guess I'd stopped taking everything so personally. Maybe she had too. There was something comforting about knowing that I was the one person she could rely on, even if she never said it out loud. At first, I was just doing it for the sake of doing it. I thought, she's family, and family takes care of each other, right? But as time passed, it became more than that. She started trusting me. She began opening up about things I never imagined we'd talk about. The cracks in her tough exterior started showing, and I started seeing her as more than just the woman who once judged me for everything I did. She was vulnerable in a way I hadn't seen before. But it was more than just a shift in our relationship. It was a shift in how I saw myself in her life. She wasn't some distant mother-in-law anymore. She wasn't just the woman who didn't like me. She was a person. And I was starting to care for her as such. It sounds cliche, I know, but I began to realize I actually liked spending time with her. I liked hearing her stories. I liked hearing her opinions. Even if they were brutal. They were honest, even when they hurt. There was something refreshing about that kind of honesty in a world where everyone seems to sugarcoat everything. She told me once, "I wish I had someone like you in my life when I was younger. I wouldn't have made the mistakes I did." I didn't know what to say to that. I didn't want to get sentimental, but it hit me deep down. She was opening up to me in a way she hadn't with anyone else, and I was the one she trusted the most. She didn't have much. Not that she ever showed it. She was proud. Too proud. But even that pride started to fade over time. It wasn't a dramatic change. It was subtle. The way she'd ask me about my day. The way she'd stop complaining for once and actually listen. The way her eyes softened when I helped her with something she couldn't do on her own. It was those small moments that made me feel like I was doing something worthwhile, like I was doing something good. I told myself, it's the least I can do. I kept it simple. Help her out. Make sure she's taken care of. Do it for her, but also for me, so I could feel like I was doing the right thing. But that's the thing about doing the right thing. It never stays simple for long. It never stays simple when people start expecting things from you. And that's when it all started to unravel. One night, after dinner, she asked me to help her with something. It wasn't unusual. She often asked for help with little things. But this time was different. She had something on her mind. She told me to come sit with her in the living room. So I did. "I need you to listen to me. Really listen," she said, her voice unusually soft. "Of course," I replied. "What's going on?" Her eyes flickered for a moment, like she was weighing something heavy. Then she handed me a piece of paper, folded neatly. "This is for you," she said, pushing it into my hands. I looked at the paper, confused. I wasn't sure what to expect, but it definitely wasn't this. "What's this?" I asked, my mind racing with thoughts of wills, deeds, or something else serious. Her face remained unreadable. "It's my will," she said bluntly, and I want you to have everything." I stopped in my tracks. I didn't know what to say. I thought it was some mistake. I didn't even know what to do with the information. "Everything?" I finally asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," she said firmly. "Everything. I don't want my kids to have it. I want you to have it. They don't deserve it. You do." It was all too much. She had been giving me little things here and there, old trinkets, books, stuff I didn't think much of. But this was different. This was real. This was everything. I stood there, holding the paper, trying to understand what she was saying. She didn't want to leave her inheritance to her children. She trusted me more than she trusted them. And just like that, in the blink of an eye, I became the person who stood to inherit everything. It didn't make sense. Why me? Why not her own kids? What did I do to deserve this? I hadn't done anything except help her when she needed it, but now it seemed like everything I had done for her was coming back to bite me in the ass. "Are you sure?" I asked, trying to make sense of it all. "You're sure this is what you want?" Her eyes didn't waver. "I'm sure. I trust you more than I trust anyone else." And that was it. Just like that, I found myself standing at the edge of something I didn't expect, something I didn't know how to handle. I was tangled in a mess of her choosing. Her children didn't know, and for now, I kept it that way. But it wouldn't stay quiet for long. I didn't know what to do with that paper, didn't know what it meant, but I knew one thing for sure. My life was about to get a lot more complicated. The days after my ex-mother-in-law handed me her will felt like a heavy fog had settled over my life. I wasn't sure how to carry this secret, let alone what to do with it. There was a part of me that wanted to just forget about it, pretend like I hadn't seen it, like I hadn't become the sole heir to a woman's entire life. But deep down, I knew I couldn't ignore it. She had trusted me with this. The house was quiet after her death. I kept myself busy, going through her belongings, packing things up. It was strange, knowing that everything I touched was now technically mine, and yet it didn't feel like it. It didn't feel like her death was any more mine than it was my ex-husband's. We were all just living out a different version of reality, pretending that things were normal. It didn't take long for the first call to come in. My ex-husband's name flashed across my phone, and my stomach dropped. I hadn't heard from him in months. But now, here he was on the other end of the line, and he wasn't calling to check on how I was doing. That was never his style. "Why didn't you tell me?" he demanded. No greeting, no preamble. "Why didn't you tell me about the will?" I leaned back in my chair, running my fingers through my hair, trying to keep my voice steady. "I didn't think it was necessary," I said. "It wasn't exactly public knowledge." "That's bullshit," he snapped. "This is my mother's estate. I'm entitled to it. What the hell do you think you're doing?" I bit my lip. Part of me wanted to hang up on him, to tell him to get lost. But I couldn't. This was bigger than my annoyance with him. This was about something much more important, something I wasn't ready to face head on yet. "Look," I said, trying to stay calm. "She left everything to me. You know how she felt about her kids? She didn't want you or your sisters getting anything." Silence. The kind of silence that makes you feel like you've been slapped. I knew it was coming. I could practically hear the gears in his head turning, working through the anger, trying to figure out how to take back control. "You're lying," he spat. "She never would have done that. You must have manipulated her. There's no way she'd give everything to you." I felt a rush of heat in my chest. He had the audacity to accuse me of manipulating his mother, the same woman who had never once shown him an ounce of respect, the woman who'd been left with nothing but bitterness after years of trying to live up to his expectations. "I didn't manipulate her," I said, my voice firm. "She made her own decisions." "Bullshit," he fired back. "You were the last one she trusted, and now you're taking advantage of it. I don't care what you say. I'm not letting you get away with this." The line went dead, and I was left holding the phone, unsure of what to feel. My mind raced, trying to understand how things had spiraled so quickly. What had I done wrong? I had done exactly what she asked. I had tried to help her. I wasn't trying to take anything from him, yet somehow, here I was, the enemy. And that was just the beginning. The next few days were filled with more of the same. My ex-husband's calls kept coming, each one angrier than the last. But it wasn't just him. His sisters, the same women who had barely even acknowledged their mother in the last few years, suddenly appeared at my doorstep, demanding to know why they hadn't been informed of the will. They were furious. They claimed that their mother's decision to leave everything to me was a mistake, that I had somehow twisted her arm, that I didn't deserve anything. I was drowning in their accusations. All I wanted was to grieve. All I wanted was to take care of her final wishes and move on. But that wasn't going to happen. I was trapped in a battle I never asked for. The worst part? No one believed me. No one believed that she had made this decision of her own accord. To them, I was the villain. The person who had somehow stolen something from them, even though I was the one who had been there when no one else would. Each day, the pressure built. My ex-husband's voice, his sister's constant barrage of messages, the subtle insinuations that I was somehow responsible for their mother's death. They painted me as the villain, the one who had manipulated a frail woman into giving up her fortune. The more they came at me, the more I started to doubt myself. Was I really doing the right thing? Maybe they were right. Maybe I was just a selfish person, hoarding everything for myself when I didn't even need it. Maybe I should just walk away and let them have it. But then, I'd think about her. I'd think about the time we spent together. She had trusted me. She had chosen me to carry on her legacy. And I wasn't going to let that go. Not just because they were pissed off, but the calls didn't stop. The family didn't stop, and that's when the next twist came. One I wasn't prepared for. It didn't stop. It never stopped. The calls, the emails, the messages, they just kept coming, each more heated than the last. Every time my phone buzzed, I could feel my stomach tighten in anticipation of what was coming next. It wasn't just my ex-husband anymore. It was his sisters. It was distant cousins. It was anyone who had ever been remotely involved with her, demanding explanations, accusing me of taking what wasn't mine. The pressure was unbearable, and the worst part? Every single one of them had the same story. I was the villain, the manipulator, the person who had somehow forced my ex-mother-in-law to leave me everything. But none of them ever stopped to ask themselves why she didn't leave it to them. None of them wanted to face the truth that they had treated her like an afterthought for years, showing up only when it was convenient or when they wanted something. But me? I'd been there. I'd been there when she needed someone. I was the one who made sure she was okay when no one else could be bothered. I'd seen her when she was vulnerable, when she was scared. I wasn't perfect. I had my own issues. But I was the one who had been there when she needed it most. And yet here I was, standing alone, surrounded by accusations and betrayal. At first, I tried to keep my composure. I tried to explain things calmly to show them that this was her decision, but they wouldn't listen. They didn't want to hear the truth. It didn't fit into their narrative. To them, I was the villain who had come out of nowhere, taking something that wasn't mine. They wanted it all back. They wanted what they felt entitled to, and they didn't care what it cost me. My ex-husband was the worst. He was relentless. He'd show up at my door, demanding to know where everything was. He'd shout and throw accusations, calling me a thief, a liar. At one point, he even accused me of brainwashing his mother, which was laughable. If anyone had brainwashed her, it was him and his sisters, with their constant disregard for her feelings. But I didn't say that. I didn't have to. I was tired of explaining myself. Then things escalated. One evening, I was sitting in the living room, staring at the will again. I hadn't really processed it. It was still so surreal, this document that had changed everything in my life. That was when the doorbell rang. I opened the door to find my ex-husband standing there, his face red with anger. "Give it back," he said, his voice low, threatening. He wasn't asking. He was demanding. "Give me what's mine." I stood there for a moment, not sure what to say. He wasn't even trying to hide the contempt in his voice anymore. He wasn't asking about his mother's legacy or her wishes. He was just focused on his own greed, his own entitlement. "I'm not giving it back," I said quietly, firmly. "This is hers. This is what she wanted. You don't get to just take it because you're angry." His eyes narrowed. "You think you can just keep everything? You think you can walk away from this without any consequences?" I didn't answer right away. I just looked at him, trying to maintain my composure. But then, without warning, he pushed past me, shoving the door open and stepping into the house. "Get out of my house," I said, my voice shaking with the anger that had been building up inside me. "You think I'm going to let you get away with this? You think I'm just going to stand by and watch you walk away with everything? You're going to regret this." I knew then that it wasn't going to stop. The situation had escalated beyond reason. He wasn't just upset anymore, he was angry. And anger makes people do things they wouldn't normally do. I knew I had to protect myself. Protect what was left of my life, my sanity. And then, in the heat of the moment, it happened. My ex-husband lunged at me. I don't know what he was thinking. Maybe he thought he could scare me, intimidate me into giving in, but I wasn't backing down. He'd tried to intimidate me for years, and I wasn't about to let him do it again. I pushed him back, and that's when he lost it. The next thing I knew, he had me cornered, and I felt the weight of his anger pressing down on me. For a split second, I thought about backing down. I thought about just giving up, handing it all over to make it stop. But I couldn't. I wasn't going to let him win. I wasn't going to let him make me feel small again. The confrontation grew more violent. It wasn't physical, but it was intense. We were shouting, I was backing away, he was pushing, and it felt like everything was crumbling. Everything I had done for his mother, everything I had done for myself, felt like it was unraveling in that moment. And then there was a loud bang. I froze. My heart skipped a beat. A few minutes later, my ex-husband was in his car, speeding away. And I stood there, looking at the mess, the emotional wreckage of everything that had led to this point. I wasn't sure what happened next. My mind was spinning, my body trembling. I was trying to process it all, but nothing made sense. I thought I was doing the right thing. I thought I was honoring her wishes. But now, I was caught in the crossfire of a family that couldn't get along long enough to even respect her memory. And for what? A few dollars? A house? I thought it was going to be simple. I thought it was going to be easy. But now, I was left standing in the wreckage of my decisions, and it felt like everything was slipping through my fingers. I didn't know what was coming next. I didn't know how this would end, but I knew one thing for sure. Things were never going to be the same.